1.
Hello and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Allison and with me is Brian, and we will be covering right-wing, maybe it is right-wing, eh? Right-wing men hate women and we need to talk about it. Maintaining frame number 106. All right, as always, before we start the show, if you want to send us a message at any time throughout our witterings, please do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. That's feedthebadger.com/justthetip. You get the full benefit of sending your comments through, well, having a place to send them on Twitter and not sending those comments through YouTube's comment minefield. And we get the full benefit of whatever funds you send. So it's a win-win-win. Once again, that's feedthebadger.com/justthetip. I paused there for a moment because I'm like, who's the third person that wins? Maybe Jesus?
No.
No.
No, he already won. That would be win-win-win. That would be the viewers, the supporters, and us. There you go.
Oh, okay. Okay, there you go. All right. So feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And if you want to support the show, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/support. All right. So what are we covering here, Brian, since this was your selection?
All right. So we have this video interview on the channel known as Triggernometry, and they are talking to a woman named Ashley St. Clair. Ashley St. Clair is a cultural commentator and contributor to the Babylon Bee. And the reason why it caught my eye was the trailer I watched. So the trailer was something about, like, you know, the right has a misogyny problem. And I saw that, and it was going around the Twitterverse. And I actually enjoyed the discourse because, once upon a time, if somebody had said blank has a misogyny problem, there would have been a scrambling of people to like address it. Like, oh, we got to do something about this, but as it turns out, people are a lot less enthusiastic about this, and they're annoyed that women like Ashley St. Clair are essentially engaging in this, and the comment section of this video also demonstrates that. So I think it's good times. So
but yeah,
I saw the trailer. I think that it is the overall interview is about more than that, but this is where I'm only going to pick out the parts where Ashley St. Clair is airing her grievances, and the Triggernometry hosts respond to them, and it is as cringe as you think. But I would say, before you get too ragey, bear in mind the comment section is not favorable to them. so
the white pill comes in the comment section.
Yeah, the white pill comes in the reaction to the content.
Okay, so, all right. I got to remember, I got to stay a little bit further back. I hope I didn't blow people's eardrums out with that.
No, it's all right. I put a limiter on it, so you can't go too high. All right, okay. So let's get into the video, and I'm gonna I jumped ahead to the section called "Women Shouldn't Vote." So,
Ashley Sinclair, welcome to Triggernometry.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to finally sit down with you guys.
I'm a big fan. We're both big fans
of jumping forward.
No, I jumped forward because the beginning is just an intro thing. So.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'm just jumping to the first time zone or time code.
It just threw me because they were like in. Like they're saying hello, and I'm like, is that not normally the intro? I guess
that's usually how things start. No, there's usually like a, there's usually like a sizzler thing that's like, oh, she's gonna say controversial things, like exactly
something to wet.
Right. Let's play some
stuff that you put out. You're very funny. We met a couple of weeks ago, so we thought we'd sit down and have a conversation.
For a woman, right? Funny for a woman.
For a woman. Now this is actually one of the things that we wanted to talk a little bit about, because
women.
Yeah, because the online conversation, certainly in our space, about women has kind of gone a little bit crazy.
Okay, I think you said, who is this person?
Who is who?
Her, Ashley St. Clair. Do you know
she
her?
worked? I don't know her. Obviously, I don't know her personally. Like I said, she's a cultural. I said in the beginning. Did you not listen? She's a cultural commentator. Like, she works for the Babylon Bee.
All right.
The Babylon Bee is a satire website. Very funny articles, by the way.
No, I'm just finding. I'm just like, does she have anything? Any background in issues between men and women, or?
I just think she's a woman online with an opinion, and I think that's probably enough for them.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah.
I know that I shouldn't. I mean, I recognize I shouldn't play the credentials game in this instance, but I have myself done work on these issues for 20 years. So I was thinking maybe she had something like that. Oh, no. Okay. No.
No,
all right.
I don't think so. I mean,
okay.
She seemed. I think that really she's just a woman who has some clout online, some e-fame, and she has opinions. Therefore, we have to listen. So, let's. Yeah.
I mean, you could say Karen is sort of in that situation too. Like we're both like commentators on the internet. She's done a lot of research. I've done a lot of research. Does her work, Ashley St. Clair's, reflect research? I
have no idea. Okay, I think we should listen. Yeah.
Question for the commentators. You guys can correct us if I'm barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah. So they're talking to her about an argument or something going on Twitter that is concerning to women like her. Okay, let's play something.
So basically, she's a woman.
She's a expert because she's a woman. Yeah, she's friends with. Right. She's sort of like online friends with Lauren Southern. If that is any. If there's a clue there. So.
But it does grope towards sort of a conclusion. But you're right. Let's listen.
Okay.
When you described the sphere, you called it the Retardo Sphere.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what it is right now. And it's, for whatever reason, so much of the right is devolving into these Andrew Tate-isms, which, good or bad, I just think there's a lot more important conversations we could be having than whether or not it's been a good thing that women vote. And that's...
Yeah, well, obviously not.
But I also think a lot of these people who say, and for those unfamiliar, there's a lot of discourse eating up the right on the 19th Amendment, whether or not the 19th Amendment was a good thing.
I really don't think there is, but okay.
There is this graph here, and this is being shared around Twitter, and it says what 2016 would look like if only women voted, what 2016 would look like if only men voted. So there is a suggestion that women, and the thing about flyover states is they tend to be red anyway, but it does show that women tend to vote a certain way. And I don't think there's anything wrong with noticing and pointing that out. And that's kind of the discourse online. But this is really troubling for people like Ashley St. Clair.
Is she actually she's a conservative or a Republican?
Yeah, the Babylon Bee is a conservative outlet. She is a conservative woman. Well, quote unquote conservative woman.
Some conservative commentators are noticing that the party of single women is voted for by women. Fascinating. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all basically the party of single women now. But
the thing is that the supposed, and I'm again really loosely here, conservative women are still like more loyal to women as a group than like whatever ideals, whatever values, whatever principles. Yeah, those are all gone because Cat Turd said something triggering on Twitter. And now I'm going to vote to destroy the country to get back at him and all men. But I'm totally a conservative, guys, and not a feminist myself. So, yeah, that's what she's upset about.
Here's the problem. What is the solution to this? Right? What is the solution? Are conservatives supposed to appeal to women in the way that Democrats do? Well, then the Republican Party is essentially another. Well, it really is another version of the Democrats, but it just is. You see, the thing is that the Democrats are moving towards much faster towards appealing to women more and more and more, and also the groups of people that women advocate for instead of children. but the only way that we can change this, or the only way that the right could change this, is by moving towards or appealing to the female vote even more. And they really aren't going to pick up the same votes as the Democrats. They will just pick up, some women who want to move a little slower towards whatever end we're going to, in appealing to women. That's like, it seems like it's not a winning strategy, but honestly, if that's the way that Republicans want to go, then what they need to do is they need to embrace all of the talking points of the left, of Democrats, and just start pushing, pro-immigration policies, pushing pro-trans, particularly pro-trans women policies, pushing all of that stuff. They just basically have to copy the Democrats' playbook and become Democrats. But then the question is, what values does your party have then? Like, do you have any distinct values?
Well, see, that's the thing. Well, Ashley Sinclair, we should watch more of her video, but I don't think that she has solutions. I think she just has grievances, because that's what they do. They complain. Mm-hmm. So let's listen to more of this.
We repealed the 19th. If women didn't vote, we'd always have a Republican president. Well, you could apply that to other groups as well, besides women. But it's just acceptable to hate women and say these things about women. Yes, if only white men voted, we would always have a Republican president. But that's not the reality. We're not going backwards. Women vote more than men. That's just the reality of the situation. So I think it's such a pointless conversation, but it's taking up so much of the dialogue that they want to blame women for all of the ails in society, which I just think is absurd.
Why do you think it's happening?
Wait. Can we just listen to that again? Just that. Let's just listen to that again.
That we're blaming women for everything?
Besides women, but it's just acceptable to hate women and say these things about women. Yes, if only white men voted, we would always have a Republican president. But that's not the reality. Right. We're not going backwards. Women vote more than men. That's just the reality of the situation. So I think it's such a pointless conversation, but it's taking up so much of the dialogue that they want to blame women for all of the ails in society, which I just...
Okay. All right. What conservative issue isn't a result of Democrat policy? Like issues with immigration, issues with fiscal problems, like the problems that they're seeing with trans. I mean, I'm just saying this neutrally, just as a neutral observer, as an enlightened centrist hovering above everybody. I'm making fun of myself, by the way. I'm just saying, but like all of the aspects of the Republican platform are, of course, or a good portion of it is opposing what Democrats have done, right? And when you look at it and you say, well, the reason why Democrats are doing these things is because women are voting for them, period, full stop. How can you not sort of say, well, if you look at the world from the Republican perspective, women voters are sort of the problem. Like, I mean, that's the conclusion is inevitable. It's an inevitable conclusion. And
yeah, that's it. That's what, like, the thing is that she thinks that this is like troubling, I guess. Well, we can get into more of the video, but essentially there's just, I was just talking to Lindsay about this today. I said, all it is there's men and they're online and they're talking to each other and they're like, what do we do? And then they're looking at patterns, they're looking at voting habits, they're looking at the policies that are essentially the issues of the day. And almost all of them are the ones that women care about the most. Like there are some that are like that don't have like a particular sex, like immigration affects men and women. For example, the economy affects men and women. But then there are some that are like, all women, like only, like abortion, like, the trans issue, like the Title IX, things like that. So basically you have issues that both sexes care about, and then we have issues that only women care about. And that's it. Like men's issues, like whatever those might be, that's not even on the table. Yeah,
it's nowhere.
So
no one cares.
Yeah, that's not even an option to discuss. So it's like, Ashley Sinclair doesn't see, this is the thing, she can't see that there are men who are essentially just fed up with this like uphill battle of just wanting something that is good governance and fair. It's not even like Republican in terms of like the party, because most of the party is corrupt and they don't like them either. So it's not even about that. It's just like there's what men want, and they're like looking at, okay, we should be spending less money, we should have a border, we should have a military, we should not be intervening in other people's shit, we should be spending less money, you know, like all of that. And there are women who are like, yeah, but if you don't consider my needs, I'm gonna vote for the other side. Like, I don't care, that it doesn't matter that I'm on your side now, because I could just decide not to be. And so when men are like, well, why is it that when men vote, when we vote, at least in most cases, we're considering not just like our, you know, the way that we benefit as men, but but also how our family benefits, how our line will benefit, like our children and our children's children, and how our society will benefit. And it sounds like women are just thinking about themselves. And so there's no like, it's not like there's a trade-off. It's not like women are putting their skin in the game to the same extent. So it makes men wonder, like, well, then what are we doing? You know? And of course, this is offensive to women. And that's ultimately what Ashley St. Clair is talking about. It's what Lauren Southern is talking about. It's what so many other, except for a few, Lauren Chen is okay. But a lot of women who are supposedly conservative, and again, I use that term sparingly because they're not acting like conservatives. And I don't think that calling yourself something makes you the thing. You have to act like it. You have to have the values. They're not living up to that because they want to have their cake and eat it too, just like feminist women. There is no difference.
Okay, just to get in there, as again the enlightened centrist hovering above all of this, I'm being self-deprecating, by the way, when I say that. I know. But I am sort of like how should we put it? More masculine as a woman. So sometimes I sort of feel like I'm in between the camps. What I am seeing is that it is not typical for women to really comprehend the nature of a system and how a system works and how things impact systems. They don't seem to have as much of an interest in it. I don't know if the ability is inherent. Maybe it's just the lack of interest. They seem to have much more interest in like more emotional, interrelational things. I mean, women will even say we're more empathetic, which means that they just are more interested in interrelational stuff, right?
Yeah.
Women will even say that. But the consequence of that, the negative of that, is that when you are more focused on the individual anecdote, the story, the emotion, you don't necessarily see the overall picture of things, the system, the interaction of parts, that kind of thing. You don't step back and look at things from that kind of more cold, calculating perspective. And what I'm seeing is that with the party of single women, the rise of the party of the single women, specifically, not just women voters, but single women voters, there is less and less of an understanding of how the system works, or a sense of responsibility to maintain it. If that makes sense. Like a sense of, I have to sacrifice this, that, or the other thing to make sure that the system continues to function. So what we have is we have a voting bloc that doesn't understand what it relies on for things to happen. And so it appears, and then there's this other kind of mental quality that has been, I think this is more inculcated in women, that they think men are almost like infinite giving boxes. So that every time a man fails, probably not because he didn't want to be able to do it, but just simply because he ran out of the ability to do it, or he just, like functionally wasn't capable of it. It's almost like it's a failure of him morally rather than a failure in terms of his just physical ability, just being a person who just can't do it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, and I think it also ties into women's inability to see men's vulnerabilities, because they conceive of them almost like immorality. Like if a man fails, it isn't because he tried, it's because he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to help women. And there's this absence in understanding men as people, and an absence of understanding that the system has to be maintained, and it in many cases it needs sacrifice, or at least a willingness to work hard. And all of this sort of combines to create a voting bloc that thinks the system is infinite. Like it's just a big black box that gives you whatever you want. You just hit a button, it comes out. You hit a button and it comes out. And men sort of are complicit with this too, because men very rarely explain to women the cost of things. Like you don't sit down to a 12-year-old, 13-year-old girl and show her pictures of World War I and World War II and say, you see this dollar that you're spending? You see the power of what you can buy with this? These men sacrificed for that. That's where it came from. And if you don't protect that sacrifice, we're going to be right back there. Because, it, you know, like the whole hegemony of the West, I mean, I could get into the details. I don't know. You look like I'm losing you there, Brian.
No, I'm following. I just, no, go ahead and finish.
The reason why the US dollar became so preeminent is because of the Reconstruction after World War II, and because they basically won, right? So it's all of this history of sacrifice that leads them to the prosperous society that we enjoy and the system that maintains it, and they aren't given any clue about any of it. Like people don't sit girls down and say, you have to understand this. You have to understand the sacrifice of men in the past. You have to understand the sacrifice of soldiers around the world today to maintain what you enjoy. Instead, they're handed this narrative that they're entitled and that they have been cheated by society, that society has cheated them, and that if society really cared about them, it would give them even more. And not just them, it would give them all of the little minority groups that are so vulnerable and innocent and pink and chubby, like little infants. All of them, it would give them everything they need too. You know, and the world would just be a utopia of hugs and smiles and cradles and warm fleecy blankets, you know, and nobody explains to them that there are limitations. You know, so we have this voting bloc that doesn't understand, that doesn't conceive of itself. And this is another thing. Women don't think of themselves in terms of what they need to do to maintain the system. And I know there are women out there like, oh my God, but I do. No. The biggest philosophical movement for women is about what the system owes women, not what women owe the system. You know, what women owe society, what women owe the community, their families, their husbands, their children, right? We got more of a dialogue over what women owe their dogs and cats than any of the humans in their life. You know, and we can't even talk about that because that's blaming women.
Yes.
You know, and that is the big problem. If women were like, okay, maybe we are doing something, like collectively, there's something we need to get a rein on. We need to get a hold on. Or maybe even individual women said, you know, maybe you have a point there. Maybe there's something that we need to, if you think that the issues that Democrats push, which essentially is that black box thinking that, well, if we're not serving minorities, it's because the system, you know, is being oppressive and not giving them the things that white straight het men are given, right? You know, that's what's happening. But that idea is both like it assumes that what we deal with, or what our communities, our society has the ability to give everybody everything that they need, and chooses not to. And that kind of sense of entitlement, it never gets into the thinking of, well, what do I owe? It's always, what am I owed? And so we have a voting bloc that's constantly talking in that way, and assuming that the system can underwrite everything that they decide. Like you can bring in all the population of the earth into the US and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
No problem. Because the box will just puke out more stuff. You know? And everybody will be fleecy blankets and smiles and rattles and warm sippy cups full of milk for eternity. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. There are limitations to resources. Like, you got immigrants in Canada that are sort of waking up to that. And they're calling it the shitty buffet. Like, it's an infinite buffet, but there's a huge buffet, but they're letting in infinite people. So yeah, it's like, and that's a problem, and we can't even begin to discuss it. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter if men are hurting your feelings. What they're talking about are hard realities that are coming fast, and they're starting to see them. They're starting to see the collapse of everything. Like, Saudi Arabia hasn't renewed its agreement with the US, so petrodollar's sort of up in the air. You know, the BRICS nations are moving more and more to an independent economy. This is stuff that should be concerning to anybody who relies on the US dollar being the world reserve currency. And I don't mean just the US. I mean the whole West relies on that. We're basically all subsidiaries of the US dollar. And anybody who understands that should be concerning. And men are concerned because they know if the system collapses, this woman, she ain't going to be sitting on a couch being interviewed as an expert on women. She's going to be on a street corner selling her ass for cheese. Okay, and
All right,
does she understand that? And that's if she's lucky. If she's unlucky, she's going to be starving to death, or a war casualty, like a civilian casualty of war. I mean, maybe not in the States, but, you know, like, there are meat hook realities to all of this. You can't keep asking the system to provide for you without ever thinking about how you maintain it. It's like expecting your car to run and never do any preventative maintenance on it, or any maintenance whatsoever.
All right, let's play some more of the video.
Maintenance is
so
misogyny.
anyway, we're blaming women for everything, guys. Did you catch up? Did you hear the latest? Women are always being blamed. All right, let's listen.
I think is absurd.
Why do you think it's
I'm sure that these guys are going to push back real hard on that.
happening? Two questions. A, do you think it reflects in any way like the normal person on the street? Because I'd probably argue it doesn't.
In a way, I want to say it doesn't. I don't think most people would say we should repeal the 19th, but I think
Yeah, I think that's a fair
I
comment.
think most, especially young men, I think if you ask them who's Andrew Tate, they would know that answer. I think they've seen his content, they've digested this content, and so often when the topic of Andrew Tate comes up, I always say Andrew Tate's not the problem, because if you take Andrew Tate away, you still have this massive group of young men who are clinging to that message, because I think for whatever reason, men do not really have role models or anybody to guide them in any.
For whatever reason, what could it possibly be that men don't have role models? Why are they so angry? I don't know why, but I certainly know that we shouldn't help them. And we should also shame them and isolate them more because Andrew Tate.
And they wonder why there's more Andrew Tates. Like, good God. What happens when we refuse to give the whole population of men water? Look at them going to the Water Tate, who gives them all water. Good God. What do you expect? What do you freaking expect? If you are not going to provide an essential and critical aspect of human need, which is some kind of positive identity, if you're not going to provide that, then they're going to find it somewhere. Just like if you turn off all the taps and you make it so men can't get water, which is not actually that far-fetched. In ancient societies, it used to be just women could use the fountains in the city. If you turn off all the taps and refuse to allow men to use water, they're going to flock to whoever gives them water. And then you complain, well, this guy, well, how dare? It's like, well, maybe consider not withdrawing a human need from men that's so critical. Like, anyway.
She does later on point out that she does realize that men have a problem, right? That they're going through something, but she offers no solution. This is the thing I've noticed with these people. They only have complaints They only have observations. They only respond when it gets to a point where it makes them uncomfortable, but they offer no solutions. Anyway, back to the video though.
Anyway, so Andrew Tate is the loudest in saying these things. And then I think there's these folks in the right wing like Charlie Kirk who are clinging on to it because they see it's popular and they're grifting off of that narrative. So all of a sudden, Charlie Kirk, who runs one of the most important organizations on the right, you know, they're bringing in millions and millions of dollars. All of a sudden, he's repeating these Andrew Tateisms that, you know, women should.
You're not really
just
taking
not work. They should
responsibility
stay
for
at
the fact
home,
that women
even though
vote Democrat. She's just not going to do that, is she?
No, I don't. Well, I think she just said earlier, women vote more. It's almost like she's still blaming men because they're not, you know, like they're not voting more or something.
Well, okay, what's the candidate who's like water to the men? Where's the water to the men candidate? Like,
I mean, yeah, no, there is nothing. There's nothing like, you know, you were talking about how, you know, there's all of these things going on with our economy, with the petrodollar, with, you know, these foreign wars that, like, you know, men in the West don't want to get dragged into. They don't want to end up paying for all of these issues, you know, and the number one thing that the Democrats are pushing right now to essentially lock down the female vote. It doesn't matter if they're single. It doesn't matter if they're married. It doesn't matter if they don't have any kids or if they have a bunch of kids. The only thing they're using is Roe v. Wade. And I know it's going to be effective. They're going to use abortion. They're going to use bodily women's autonomy, whatever, my body, my choice. They're going to weaponize the shit out of that. And it is working. And it's the only thing they have to run on. They can let everything else go to shit. And women, this is the thing. Women will vote on that. They will say, yes, I'm going to do it. Even though even if it's a woman who is 100% responsible with her, you know, sexuality, who is very careful about like whether or not she has kids, who or raises them responsibly, it doesn't matter. She's on team woman. She will team up with the most like irresponsible, loose, like careless women because they are women. And that's what they'll do. Like they're it's a guarantee. And this is it. You know it works because the Dems don't have to talk about anything else. They don't have to talk about, they could literally be pro-war, and they are openly pro-war. We have to finish,
openly,
you know, what's going, yeah, openly, yep,
government policy.
Yep. And it doesn't matter because the ladies, we got you. You're gonna be able to get all the abortions, all of them. And women will vote for that because, and also vote for more free shit, more Gibbs. Why is it, you know, I went through on Honey Badger Arcade, I went through everything in Project 2025 that all of these women, most of them leftist women, but a lot of conservative women too, were freaking out. They were having a panic attack. And I was like, okay, I want to see if this is as bad as they said. Nothing in there is unreasonable. It's all about like, we're going to shrink the government here. We're going to shrink the government here. We're going to shrink the government here. We're going to get rid of the Department of Education. We're going to cut down on this spending. We're going to cut down on that spending. And I'm like, yeah, that seems reasonable. And women are like, oh my God, I'm no longer going to get free shit. Well, guess what? It's not free. Like it was never free. We're trying to like salvage what's left and shrink things down as much as possible. That's all. Right.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the American government is now automatically registering men to 18 to 25 for selective service because they're worried they're not going to be able to make conscription targets.
Yeah, and the thing is, what's the conversation about? It's not about that. It's about women now have to register. That's everybody's freaking out about this now, and it's like, yeah, but men are automatically getting registered. Like, do you remember what happened in Ukraine when they went to war and people were like, the draft, that never happens. And there's like guys that are like in their 40s that have to fight. Yeah. And they're going to die.
Age is 40.
Yeah.
Which is unbelievable. Like that's 50-year-old men, 50 and 60-year-old men going to war while able-bodied women, children sit in their and on their own asses, not sacrificing for the system.
Well, a lot of them just leave and marry guys in Germany. They just like leave their husbands and they just start new lives. That's happening a lot too.
Freaking believable. That's just that just astounds me. So, and what you're describing is essentially, women are in the grip of a threat narrative, about the Republican Party, about recognizing that the system itself needs to be maintained. I mean, really, the two parties where the Republicans aren't just basically neocons pursuing the same kind of government corporate collusion. I mean, the two parties on a populist level are basically women demanding resources for monolithic infant classes, and men trying to maintain the ability to provide.
Yeah.
And nobody, absolutely nobody, has the single moment to spare to recognize men as people.
Yep.
Yes, because that's basically it. It's basically just a woman demanding stuff, and the man saying, "Can you just give me the resources to do it?"
Yep.
And that's the two parties.
Yeah,
And
well, at
it's
least
like,
the reasonable ones, right? Or not reasonable, but that's what, like you said, when you remove like the warmongering, rhinos and neolibs, then that's what you got. You got women with their hand out and men going, well, we got to figure out we want to give you this stuff, but let's try to let's ration it out.
Be reasonable.
Your camera froze, Allison.
And again, they've put and they've made the situation where men are like, well, let's be reasonable about how to get this to you. Give us the ability to pay taxes, to make money to pay taxes, because otherwise, where's the money going to come from? Do you think the people who are printing it are just going to hand it to you? No, they're enjoying being able to print it for themselves. So, let's attend to the ability to make a tax base, and the women are like, well, but we want to spend it, and reducing government is attending to the ability to construct a tax base, but that becomes a threat to women. You see, so that they're in the grips of a threat narrative about a reasonable request to just can we just have the resources to do your demand. And the threat narrative is that it's constructed with the patriarchy, because again, like I was telling you about the black box thinking, when the black box doesn't provide, it isn't because it can't, because it's not a real person with vulnerabilities, it's because it won't, it's because it hates you, right? So when men are like saying, hey, wait, can we think about how to get the resources to do what you want, women are hearing, I hate you. I hate your guts. I want you to suffer. Yeah. I will destroy you. And men are just like, but could we just we just are trying to figure out how to make it happen. That's not what women are hearing. What they're hearing is the patriarchy is denying them. And it's denying them because it hates them. And how do you get women out of this? You cannot continue to feed the paranoia and the phobia and the threat narrative. You can't continue to feed it. I think the only way you can get women out of this is just to repeat over and over and over again. Men are people. They have limitations. They can't underwrite everything, right? We're already looking at another draft because the world reserve, and the real reason why is because the world reserve currency is getting shaky. And it was always like that Highland quote, everything comes down to violence. It was always preserved because Americans said they would go in and make peace, right? They would back it with their military might. That's always been the basis of it, right? And because it's getting shaky, things like that are getting called up again, and I honestly, I just can't believe that the fact that men are having this conversation about what is going on when they are going to have to pay for the political choices of women. Like, I mean, right, I know I'm ranting a lot, but now in blood. Yes, men are going to have to pay for this woman's political choices with their lives. Like, if you screw up the system and the U.S. loses what it's gained, it may come down to men having to fight and die again to reestablish it. And you are making these decisions and they are written in men's blood. And you have a problem with men saying, hey, wait, at the very least, can you be responsible? Can we have a discussion about the decisions that women are making and the fact that every problem that you have on the right, it's basically because women are pursuing leftist policies. Like, can we have this discussion? But I mean, let's take it away out of the realm of politics. Men are saying these political decisions women are making, we're going to have to cover with our blood. We're going to have to live and die by these political decisions that women are making. And they don't have any consideration for our situation and what we are capable of, or what even we want to have to offer up for their political choices. And it's astounding to me that the discussion of this revolves around women's sense of upset and offense, rather than the fact that women like this are making political choices that men's blood has to pay for. And nobody wants to talk about it.
Nope. All right, back to this. Yeah, that's what this is. This is why I was saying I thought it was a decent video, because again, it drives home this idea that women who claim to be rational, conservative, or libertarian, or whatever, and they oppose the sort of woke feminist women, they're not that far off. Like, they're not. Like, she's essentially on here tone policing. That's all this is tone policing. So let's listen to her tone police some more. And Charlie Kirk, who is basically suggesting that women consider having a family, like that football player that did that speech that had, again, conservative women freaking out, because conservative women are not conservative. They're not. So let's stop pretending they are, and let's just call them feminists. They're just second wave feminists. That's all it is. They're second wave feminists, maybe even third wave.
His organization was built on women sacrificing their 20s and working at his organization. It's fundamentally absurd, that he's spending his time as someone who's that important on the right to say, well, you know what, women, if you don't get married in your 20s, you're less desirable at 30. This is a man who married his wife at 31.
Yeah. So what? Like, how did we get into, again, how are we getting into Andrew Tate and Andrew Tate's relationships and who?
Well, this is Charlie Kirk, but yeah, she's just
gossip.
It is. Like, this is what I'm saying.
Let me put this into what it is. This is gossip. This is not the discussion matter of someone who is a serious person. This gossip. Can we move off of the gossip? No offense to you, Brian. No offense. Like, I'm not upset.
I could skip to the next part. This is kind of like, I want to get
no more gossip about Andrew Tate and
women
Andrew Tate
versus
and
let's
Andrew
just
Tate, and I really want to have sex with Andrew Tate, but I just Andrew Tate. No more. Like, he's irrelevant. I mean, he's not irrelevant.
They're using him as a scarecrow to talk about the rest of us. That's all. So, like, there's no point in responding to that. I did an interview with guy yesterday. You sent me his email, and I talked to him, and he brought up Andrew Tate, and he said, well, I kind of hesitate to talk about this, but, and I told him, look, if people had been listening to us, there would be no Andrew Tate. So now there is. So you got to contend with that. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe change the conversation. Maybe stop attacking like the only thing that men are going towards. Maybe offer them an alternative, and then we'll go from there. But like, if you're just gonna keep on, going on this treadmill and saying, man, the new guy, I don't like the new guy, and then there was another guy, he seemed nice, but we stopped talking to him and we ignored him. Now we got a new guy, he's kind of an asshole, we're gonna get rid of him, and there's gonna be another new guy. Guess what? He's gonna be worse than the last guy, because you're just so concerned with how people sound to you that you're not actually listening to the root of what they're asking. Yes, you're not listening to what they say, you're listening to how they say it, and that's it's not going to pay off.
Put it this way. What we're talking about here are solutions, things to consider. What Andrew Tate and these other commentators are talking about with Repeal the 19th. Well, how? The only way it's going to happen is if society collapses. And that's that is not the outcome we want. Let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, sure, we can talk about that, or we can talk about what needs to change, and maybe hopefully forestall the collapse of the most prosperous system in human history. All right, let's keep going.
All right, let's watch some more.
This is the question I was going to ask you. For me, I've said this for a very long time, and I said this about there was a moment probably 5 or 6 years ago when sort of like these really dumb feminist narratives were rampaging through the culture. You know, the air conditioning in office buildings is sexist. You know, all the, and likewise now when you see the opposite thing, where it's like anyone who wants to put a wedge between men and women is not. It's not a healthy influence on our society. So
okay, all right, but there's so you don't you recognize
on both sides.
that you recognize that feminists did all of this, and they have. It's not just been last year; they keep doing it, and they've
been doing it for hundreds of years, dude.
Yeah, so feminists put this wedge between men and women. And because men are now acting like the wedge that feminists put there exists, it's their fault. No, men do not want a wedge, as far as I can tell. They would not have willingly chose to construct this wedge. You know, if it was up to men, this probably wouldn't have happened. You know, there wouldn't have been a society-wide philosophy to blame all women as constructing a matriarchy for the sacrifice of men. But here's the thing, like, you know, and again, I'm a woman. I'm just speaking, and I know that I'm speaking on behalf of men, and I know that can be annoying. But all I can say is, as a woman looking at the situation for men, I would be livid that there is a voting block of women who has absolutely no sense of my limitations as a person, but expects me to underwrite their choices in blood. And this is becoming more and more prevalent. There's no denying it now. They are now putting all men on selective service because of the conscription issue. So it's moving towards, once again, American men, Western men being expected to sacrifice their lives to maintain the system, which has been the expectation of men throughout all of human history. And if I were a man facing that, I would be pissed. I would be pissed that a group of people, a voting bloc, has the ability to make the decisions about the system for which I will have to sacrifice my life to try to maintain. So you are going to overburden the system. Like you have a car, you're going to drive it without doing an oil change, without doing any kind of preventative maintenance. You're going to drive it into the ground. And then when it needs something, that something is going to have to be paid for by men. And, you know, and it's even worse than that because it's going to be their lives that have to pay for it. You know, but you get to make the choices, men get to pay the bill. And that is, like, I can only say this as a woman looking out it from the outside, looking in, as I guess a masculine woman who has a sympathy for men. This entire situation, if I was in it, I would probably be less polite about it because it is sick and it is disgusting. It is repulsive. It is repulsive that we have a massive voting bloc that is not expected to put its skin in the game and is making all the decisions now. And all of the decisions are just putting more pressure on the system. Let's open the floodgates. Let's open the floodgates in the US and bring in everybody in the world and see if that works. And if it doesn't work, if that crashes everything, we'll just send our men to war. Ho hum, ha ha ha. I'm just a little girly. What can I, like this is sick shit. This is some really sick dystopian shit. And I think men have every right to talk about it. Because and the fact is that we are talking about women repeal the 19th, and we're not talking about the conscription issue. Not talking about all men now being put on selective service if they're under a certain age, between certain ages. Like all men are now there.
Yeah,
You know
18
why
to
they're doing
26, I think.
No, they're doing it.
Yeah, they're
because they
gearing up.
want to be able, they're gearing up, and they want to be able to identify as many men as possible because
And they know men don't want to die for this country.
No, they don't want to.
Because
And
this
why would
country
you?
it hates them. So like now they're just gonna force them.
Yeah.
So
It's-
that's
it's
what it
just-
is.
This is the situation, and nobody's talking about that. Triggernometry chooses to bring a
Nope.
woman on to talk about how women are offended by the fact that men are looking at the situation and saying, "Hey, this system, when this system starts to collapse, my ass is going to be on a battlefield with a rifle in my hands. You're going to be sitting at home, screwing the conscientious objectors. I'm going to be killing or dying when this system collapses, and you guys are making decisions that will hasten the end. That hasten me to the battlefield." And I just like the fact that this is being framed in terms of, oh, women are offended. Well, when are you not? Like before I said we will be obsolete when there's a female advocate who goes up on stage and says, "Yeah, women are doing pretty good. Let's go." Maybe men need, like a politician who goes up on stage and says, "Well, women are actually doing pretty good. Maybe we should pay attention to men." And not just one politician, but a majority who actually admit that women are doing okay relative to men. That's when we would be obsolete. But I just can't believe that this is like, it's always about women's offense, isn't it?
Always. Yep.
Always. And we're, I'm sorry, but the car breaking down isn't really about your offense, and your offense is going to change nothing about it.
All right,
Okay.
let's play more.
Question for me is, where do you think this male thing is now coming from?
I think it's really attractive to a really dumb population. I think men, and especially those who are, men are having less sex than ever. It's really easy to blame women for things that are going wrong right now.
Yeah.
It's really easy to point to that and say it's women's fault that the country's going, down the toilet. It's women's fault that I'm not getting laid. It's women's fault that I'm alone. I think it's a lot easier to say that than to, self-analyze what they're not doing right.
Oh, really? All right. Do you want to say anything about that? Because I saw you laugh. You're muted, Allison.
Women are the majority of the electorate. When are you going to take responsibility for that? When are you going to take responsibility for what women are deciding to pursue politically? Okay. When is that going to happen? And when are you going to take responsibility for the fact that your political decisions ultimately end with men's ass on the line?
Yeah.
Like, everything is about her offense. Everything is about, but men need to blame themselves more. Like, that hasn't been done.
You see what I think is happening? I think that men are raising grievances online, and because she doesn't think that's the way men should talk about their problems, like they shouldn't complain, she finds that feminine coming from men, and she's disgusted by it. So she's disgusted by men expressing themselves and saying, I think there's a problem, and I think it's coming from women because women are unaccountable. And I instead of, again, she's projecting, she's saying, oh, like, instead of complaining about women, they should probably take a step back and look at their own actions and, see what they're doing. It's like, I mean, maybe not you personally, but can you look at what is going on here in the world? It's not like men are like, oh, nobody's touching my pee-pee, I think I want to destroy society. No, that's not it. But like, why would men fight and die for a country that hates them and a population of women that think less of them, that just see them as not people, like most of the time? Why would men do that? So, and then those women vote only for what they want. Well, I just want this thing, I'm just gonna vote for that. And then the right-wing women back them up. You go, girl. And when Charlie Kirk suggests, well, maybe women should settle down and consider being a wife and a mother, which is it's not even like a radical position at all. It's a normal, like, fucking basic bitch conservative position. And these women are like, oh, but I was girl bossing. I was in my 20s. What are you saying? And it's like, actually, biology is a reality. You should look at it. It's not offensive to just have the conversation. But women are so unaccustomed to men calling them out on anything that they just lose their mind.
And that's what's gonna kill our society.
Yes.
Like, literally, it's going to be this population that only ever asks or only ever demands and does not see, like, we've essentially given control over the system to a group of people who only know how to ask things from it, not how to maintain it, not how to build it. And they have no sense of sacrifice to it because it's never been in their worldview. And this is something, honestly, how did we not see this coming when women got the vote without the ultimate responsibility to the state of dying in war? Like, I mean, honestly, this is why
I'm sure
this is why groups of disenfranchised men were excluded from the vote until they demonstrated that they were willing to sacrifice everything for the system, because they needed to have that attitude of, we're all going to maintain this thing that we all get something from. And yes, I know the system as it is sort of shit now. Like, most of it comes because the people on top can just print money. They can just print monopoly money, and that basically is a tax on all of us. And it's a permanent class system. And
yeah, but it's
in the currency itself. But at the same time,
but it's men that want to undo that, and women are not voting for that. So the men are aware that there are problems with the system. That's why they tried to make, Ron Paul happen back in the day. And it just didn't, because women were like, but that doesn't sound like something I want.
Well, the difference is that men think of a problem in the system as, okay, what's that knocking sound in the car? Okay, well, what's that light indicating? Okay, there's too much, there's an energy, there's the belt is slipping, whatever. They think about problems in the system like the car has an issue that needs to be fixed. Women, apparently, as far as I can tell, because I have not seen evidence of the contrary, think about problems of the system in terms of the car can't get me to my hair appointment.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's again, it's that different way of thinking. And I don't know if it's inherent, but it's always about offense. It's always about what the system owes you. Well, here's the thing. And I want women to understand this. The system does not have to exist forever, and it won't if you demand too much from it. So ultimately, at the end of the day, the system is people, and the system is mostly men. It's men who are maintaining the infrastructure, the utilities, the stuff that we require to survive. That it's men's work is now no longer optional. And it doesn't matter if there are men also in the air conditioned, white collar men in the air conditioned. And in many cases, they're doing a lot of the non-optional work too, right? They are controlling the system that controls the guys who are on the ground doing the utilities. But that's the thing, it's not optional. We have to care about men because the system is right now constructed from men's labor. The most essential part of our system is constructed from men's labor, and we need to care about them. We need to understand their needs, and we need to recognize them as people, right? That there are limitations in what they can accomplish, and that doesn't make them evil. That doesn't mean they hate you, because this is what women hear when they say, well, we have limitations. Oh, you hate us because you won't do it. No, it's not because men hate you. It's because they're fucking people, and people have limitations. The system ultimately comes down to the labor of people, and people are not gods. They can't do everything. I know it's astounding what this civilization has managed to accomplish. And I honestly think most women, they don't even begin to understand the immense complexity and of the cooperation that men have built to make this society function, right? And how fragile that is ultimately. And they don't even understand their own role in all of it because they don't listen to anyone.
Yeah.
And they won't take any kind of criticism. Anyway,
all right,
let's
play
going.
more.
what society as a whole is not doing right. I think there's a lot. We have a loneliness epidemic. We have, a confidence epidemic. I think there's more people than not on both sides, whether it's men or women, who are just fundamentally crawling out of their own skin. They have no sense of identity. It's not really, I think especially my generation, Gen Z, and even millennials, they're defined by narcissism, which I don't think that's accurate at all. And Bo Burnham, if you're familiar with Bo Burnham, he speaks about this, and he puts it really succinctly. He says, it's not narcissism. It's actually, this generation is like a hyper consciousness of self. It's the first generation that has social media and this performative nature where it's like, you want to perform, this is the market's answer. Now perform everything all the time for everybody. And they're sitting back and watching their life as a satisfied audience member, which is so dystopian. So it's not like this narcissism, it's hyper consciousness of self. And I think we're more insecure than we've ever been, despite, looking in the mirror more than we ever have.
Narcissists aren't necessarily secure people. No,
that's what she said. Yeah.
So everything is a performance. And how is this supposed to be fixed?
Let's find
No
out.
solutions. Okay, all right.
Well, I think they're changing subjects. I think that was just kind of, to me, that's just bumper sticker platitude shit. Like, oh, social media. Oh, it's the current, it's modern, but we can't really explain it.
She really does not like blame. That's what.
That's it, right? It's society, guys. When women say society, they mean women, right? Because when they mean men, they just say men. But when they mean women, they say society. This is like what I've
deflect.
Yeah. It's everybody. What are you talking about? It's not just me. It's everybody. It's you.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, we have blamed men for 100 years now, and men have attempted to make the changes requested of them. The latest blame is, we're afraid of you. We don't want you to approach them. Now, in 2 years, 10% of men have ceased to do so. So men are doing, you blame men attempt to make the changes requested. And now we're at a point where it's almost impossible to blame men any further. We're basically blaming, we're in a situation where the majority female electorate makes these decisions. We're still blaming men for them, and it's not really working. And then there's a group of men who are finally waking up and saying, hey, maybe the fact that women are the majority electorate means they're actually responsible for the political decisions they make.
Yeah, but the women are voting, but the women may be voting, but men are the ones who are voted for. So
no, but it's interesting. No, actually, there's a little bit of white pill in this. There apparently is a group of men who are recognizing that women being the majority electorate might make them responsible for the political decisions that are being made today. Like, isn't that why you wanted the vote? So you could have political influence? Like, you were saying, oh, we're disenfranchised. We have no voice. Okay, well, here you go. You got a voice. Now you got an even bigger voice than men. Does that not mean that you are the more politically powerful sex? You would have said that when you didn't have a vote. Even though there would be lots of stuff that disagreed, but whatever. Let's keep going.
Let's keep
with
going.
you, but just to touch back on what's going on with the right. Part of the problem that I have is the left overuse these terms, racism, misogyny, to the point where they don't mean anything. And actually people who are genuinely racist and misogynistic go, I'm not a misogynist because you said X was misogynist because he said there's two genders, right? But what I see on the right is actual genuine misogyny.
Yes.
It's a hatred.
God. I can't stand these fucking guys because obviously when I see real misogyny, I see it for real. Yeah, show it to me because I haven't seen it. If you're talking about Cat Turd saying repeal the 19th with like a troll face, that's not misogyny, asshole. Like you're making really serious claims about people that literally pay into a system that women thanklessly take out of and don't even say thank you. In fact, they just say fuck you as they do it.
Okay, but here's a question. Okay, so essentially what they're titling misogyny is recognizing that the female electorate, like the majority of female voters, are basically steering the political ship. So if you have problems with where it's been steered, well, they are the ones who are responsible for it. Right. So we're just recognizing that. Now that's misogyny. And the people who are most destroyed by this, men, and particularly conservative men, because probably men on the left's vast array of mental health issues will leave them undraftable.
Well, it's going to be mostly like right-wing guys that are in the military and in the police force and stuff like that. So
and the ones that are healthy enough to call up. And considering, and this is statistically true, considering the sheer rate of mental illness on the left, they're going to get out because of that. But so the right wing guys are the ones who are going to be drafted to pay for the political decisions of the monolithic party of women, right? And they're like, well, wait, okay, so they're the ones who are making all of these decisions that are leading to the destruction. Like, honestly, it's not a good sign when the government's like, we need to start looking into conscripting men. That's not a good sign. That means that something has started to happen. Something is starting to fall apart when they're starting to say, oh, wait, we need the men to throw it at the problem. We need some men to throw at the problem. We need to be able to do whatever we want to them in order to solve the problem. Once they do that, you know that there's a problem. There is something that's starting, something that's brewing. And right-wing men can see this, and they make the logical inference, right? The problem is a result of political decisions. The political decisions are a result of politicians that are voted in by the voters. Who are the majority of voters? And it's like literally that, like the causal chain is not that difficult to follow at all. And they have followed it. And they are the ones who are going to have to pay the bill. And again, the fact that we are complaining about a man saying, hey, I don't want to pay this bill, instead of the woman making the bill in the first place, is astounding to me. Like we can't even discuss that. And that is misogyny. That recognizing that women are the majority of the voting population, therefore they are setting the political agenda, is misogyny. Unless we just recognize that it's a good thing, I suppose.
Yeah. All right, let's play some more.
Of women.
Yes. And I don't know that that's organic. And I may be stepping into my own conspiracies here, but I don't think it's coincidental that right before the election, the right becomes the exact caricature of what the left had said the right was for years. And it wasn't. Many of us on the right knew that the right was not, this anti-Semitic, misogynistic group of folks. And now all of a sudden we're seeing this rise in misogynistic rhetoric.
Where did anti-Semitic come from?
I don't know. Well, I think
parts did you want us to cover?
No, we don't need to cover this one. She basically makes this claim that because again, there's no evidence. They're just saying stuff. And what constitutes a right-wing guy is just like a guy that's not feminist, I guess, because that's kind of like that's what she was responding to. So if you're talking to non-feminist men online, you're looking at a broad category of, some guys that are red pill and they're anti-feminist, or they're MGTOW, or they're manosphere guys like Andrew Tate or Fresh and Fit or the whatever podcast. I don't know what those guys' politics are, but she is just saying, oh yeah, those are just because the feminists have said they're right wing, so I'm going to go with that. And maybe some of them are like, more of a Nick Fuentes type, or Groypers, that like they have problems with Zionism, or they're critical of Israel, but like that she just lumps them in with the anti-Semites as well, because why not? And it's a weird thing, because I don't really want to respond to that, because that's not really what we deal with obviously on this channel. But she is trying to paint men on the right with a pretty broad brush, while claiming that there is some kind of conspiracy to make those men into a straw man of the right, while also believing the straw man herself, which makes her look like the controlled opposition. But but I digress. So I'm going to jump ahead to the next bit where she talks about, I think it's the last part that I was interested in. Women are better at being oppressed, which I think is could be interesting. This is her claim. Women are better at being oppressed. So
I think that's also part of it. I think men have been demonized. I think there's a war on masculinity because it threatens any system of power. But I think when we dive into, okay, well, women are more likely to graduate, women do better in school now, those are all facts. I also think women are just better at being oppressed and being, turning into these, because who created the school system, the modern school system, as we know it today? That was the Rockefellers. And why did they do that? That was because they wanted better workers, not better thinkers. And women are really good at that. They're like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this. And boys are not. As soon as they're, 8 years old, 7 years old, they're like, oh, well, you have an attention disorder. We're going to put you on Ritalin, or you're going to, you're in trouble in the classroom for not sitting there and being a good little worker bee. And I think women are just taking better to that. I don't know that has necessarily, I think
women are better at following orders.
Yes, they are better at following orders. Naturally, I think they are. And so men have, gotten the short end of the stick when it comes to that, and when it comes to those systems that we created and normal.
Might as well. I don't know if these guys are gonna hate on me for that. So
yeah, nothing too objectionable here. I think if you're going to propose these kinds of behavioral differences, you might want to consider the effect of systems thinking on politics, and men and women's relative ability to understand systems or even be interested in them. I mean, maybe women can be interested in systems if their systems are explained to them in ways in a fashion that they relate to. But like that, if you are going to and you are allowing for biological differences, there is a really big difference, and it is proven that men prefer systems. They prefer like tools and systems, and women prefer social interactions. And that's going to have an effect on what people understand, the understanding that people bring to the political landscape. Right? So women are going to be much more prone to seeing the system in terms of how it benefits them and the people that they feel are shortchanged. Men are probably going to look more in the system and see how to maintain it. And that's like it's like almost instinctive with men. They'll just go, if something is broken, they'll try to fix it, right? They just, and they'll just go and they'll just look at all the parts and think about it. And, that's almost like it's just something that you just see men do. And it's just the way that they think. And women are not the same in that way. No. What I'm saying is that if you're going to introduce the issue of behavioral differences, you might want to look into that and how that will affect things.
Yeah, and she's also leaving out, like, she's like, oh, this is all coming from schools, and who started schools, and then she somehow blames the Rockefellers. But like, most teachers are women, and most women teachers have a feminist background, and those women apply that theology, because that's what it is, that religion to their classroom, and it impacts boys different. That's why they get put on pills. That's why their boys are not doing as well. And again, she's also not recognizing the fact that maybe girls are getting a better education and they're coming out of college and they're getting they're making more money, even though they're also in more debt. But because they're making more money in the moment, they're also looking for men who make as much or more than them, and there's no conversation happening around that. And this goes back to what she was saying before, where she's like, oh, men are not getting laid, men are lonely, but like, they shouldn't be blaming women for that. They shouldn't be attacking women. They should be looking at themselves. And it's like, yeah, but the system isn't helping them. And it's also not helping women either, because it's putting them in like, maybe like a slightly higher than average white collar, like cubicle job. But now they're looking for a guy that's like, the top earning Andrew Tate type. And again, we're back to square one. She wants to talk about Andrew Tate, but she talks about like the men that follow him, not the women that are drawn to guys like that. and that men are simply looking at that and they're like, well, that works for him. Maybe it'll work for me. Maybe that's the issue. But no, it's always just like, what are men doing? How are men affected? What's men's behavior? What's men's attitude? What are men doing to women? How are men a threat to women, etc.? Nothing about women at all, even though women are a part of this every step of the way.
Yeah.
All right, let's play some more of this.
I also think there is a fundamental war on masculinity and just gender as a whole.
Yeah.
I think what that is a war on the natural world. I think we're
Yeah, but I think it started with men, though. See, there's another one where she's like, oh, they're attacking men and women. Yeah, but they started with attacking men. Like, you know? Oh, those are from yesterday. Okay, anyway, back to this.
we're so completely divorced from the natural world now, and gender's kind of like that last stronghold, that there's a war not only against masculinity but femininity. I've been told, and women in my generation have been told, that the only way for us to be equal is to become you guys.
Right.
Is to become men. We have to work like you. We have to fuck like you guys. We have to do this. It's everything that makes us equal is destroying things that made us different.
Well, if once you stop,
they have opportunities that you don't have. Not that you have to do the things that men do, but feminists invented this idea that men had freedoms you didn't. So you're not going to be free unless you do the things that feminists said men could do and women couldn't, which was always a lie.
Yep.
Because, and honestly,
insisting-
like, and the reason why I'm pushing back on that is because I think women do need to understand systems thinking and the fact that systems have limitations and you can't keep asking. You cannot keep asking. Especially when you're asking, when you look at the system and what underwrites the system, it's men. And you can't keep being offended by men saying, hey, I don't want to do that. I don't want to keep doing this. I don't want to keep being directed by a bunch of people who do not understand the sacrifices I'm making to do what they want. And when I'm not able to do something, they call me a villain. You know, or I simply don't want to do something, they call me a villain. Well, nobody's entitled to it in the first place. So men are not villains for saying no. And men are not villains for questioning the system. In fact, one thing I would ask Ashley St. Clair is, what responsibility does she think women have? Like, do women have responsibility? Are there things that women need to accomplish in order for society to function properly? Or are women just women the primary directors of society, and yet they're completely irrelevant to its functioning? Because that's what you're saying. When you're saying that women are not responsible, you're saying that women are completely irrelevant to the functioning of society, despite having the majority of the vote or claiming for themselves the majority of the vote. I mean, even if all men voted, women would still be the majority of voters. You know, are women completely irrelevant to the functioning of society? If they're not completely irrelevant to the functioning of society, then they are responsible for those aspects of society that only function because they're doing their job. How do you get away from that? It's just
I think
how do you get away from the majority of the electorate being women? How do you get away from that?
I think there's only a little bit left, so we'll play the
on this idea that equals means the same.
Yes.
Then you're going to erode all the natural differences between men and women, which are the source of the strength of human society, not weakness. Men and women being different and complementary is a source of strength.
Yes.
Right.
But women
Once
are
you start to erode all,
irrelevant to the functioning of society is essentially, if you don't want to take responsibility, then you are admitting that women are irrelevant, or you are saying that women should be made irrelevant. Like, literally, this is a litmus test. Okay? Somebody says to me, I'm thinking we should repeal the 19th. I'm like, okay, well, why do you think that? All of the arguments. I'm like, those are good arguments. Let's think about them. Let's discuss them. Let's see what kind of responsibility needs to be taken here. Somebody says, repeal the 19th. I am so offended. All right. Okay, so what you're saying is a discussion of women's responsibilities is not on the table. That means The only way to go forward, if women are not going to take responsibility for their power over society, is to marginalize women's power over society as much as humanly possible.
Mm-hmm.
You have made, Ashley Sinclair, you have made the strongest argument for repealing the 19th yet. If you are unwilling to entertain any questions of your responsibility, not just what you're owed, but what you are responsible for, then you are an argument for repealing the 19th.
Based.
And like I said, I can't find it in me to be offended at men facing the prospect of going and dying to support this dying system, or going and underwriting this failing system in their blood because women are sending them. And believe me, there are a lot of women who were chomping at the bit in the Ukraine and other interventions because, the underdog. And I get it. I understand. I sympathize with it. But it's also a narrative that leads to an increased confrontation and men going out and dying. And that's unavoidable. That conclusion is unavoidable. You have women chomping at the bit for war, and I've seen them, and they're sending, and I cannot find it in myself to be offended at men looking at this, looking at the fact that they are now all on a registry to potentially go to underwrite this failing system, and the people who are responsible for a majority of the political decisions in it are not willing to take any kind of responsibility or entertain any discussion of their responsibility for it. Now, men, like as a woman, if I were in that situation, my misogyny would be off the charts.
Yeah, right.
Like I would be replaced. Like it would just, you wouldn't even see. I'd just be like a nuclear bomb going off, and just like, with the word misogyny over top, because I would be so flippin' furious. Like that a group of women is deciding for me that I have to go die for a system that they are forcing into a failure state. This would infuriate me beyond belief. I'm surprised men are just like, well, let's discuss this issue over a spot of tea. Let's discuss the nuances. I'm not trying to be dismissive. Let's discuss the nuances. Let's have a beer. Let's just like have a little round table, throw some ideas back and forth. This is so gracious, like of men, to just be like, let's just chill and just throw this idea around, play with it, think about it, question it, maybe point it out to women, instead of getting absolutely lividly pissed at this situation. The fact that men are dealing with it in an intellectual way, in a way that's reasonable and fair, and it's just, in all of the repeal the 19th is a conversation about women's responsibilities, is a testament to men. It's a testament to right-wing men who are constantly being undermined by women in their pursuit, the pursuit of their political aims, right? And then they're just having this intellectual discussion about it, and women are flipping their shit. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's
accept a discussion of women's responsibilities. You are the argument why they should have none. Okay?
Yeah, it's the conversation starter. That's all.
I am really saying some really dicey crap.
No, it's okay. I don't know that this gets any better. I think this was about as far as I thought. Oh, this would be good enough.
You know what? I'm okay with that. I'm like,
okay, we can stop it here. I don't think Ashley Sinclair is going to add much, but I think that we get the point across.
I feel like I've put in a good shift shoveling shit and trying to explain things from the perspective of a weirdo.
All right.
I'm not going to say like the enlightened centrist perspective.
So we should. Okay, go ahead.
Honestly, I feel like I'm somebody who sort of sits outside of these issues in some ways because I am, like I said, a masculine woman. I do have an interest in systems, but I also have an interest in people. Like it's sort of both for me. which is
Yeah.
why, like, when I look at the interactions of people, I look at them in terms of systems. I know that sounds really weird, but that's where a lot of my insights come from. So, I mean, when I look at this, I can see what men are upset about, and they are upset, you know, because when guys get upset, they just sort of go deeper and deeper into the, well, actually, you know what I mean? Like the intellectualizing this, like just making it about calm discussion, which is good because it should be, because this needs to be calmly discussed. But I'm pretty sure there's a lot of guys who are truly pissed about that knowledge, or that heads up that, yeah, you're probably, we're gearing up for something. The government is gearing up for another, let's throw men's bodies at a problem, you know? And
Yep.
like the fact that this discussion is turned to the repeal the 19th instead of the imminent loss of a generation of young men's bodily autonomy is astounding, because that's what conscription is. Like, guys, it's it's
So
just the government saying your property, where we dispose of you as we wish.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I want to read a couple of the
Sure.
comments. So I'll just read them and you can react. So Contrarian Commando said, disappointed with Kissin and Francis, those are the two guys that host the Triggernometry, that they would not push back when she said she wants YouTube to ban the red pill, as they are pro-free speech, especially when misandry is completely the norm in mainstream TV, movies, colleges, and Hollywood. GM-DB4BV says, men can't never talk, I think he means can never talk, about women's issues, but women can always talk about men's issues.
But they don't. That's the funny
No,
thing.
they can though. Like when women start talking about men, everybody listens. When men talk about men, nobody listens, or at least very few. Last time and this is Rob Me8 VP says, last time I checked, it wasn't the conservatives who said that women have to act more like men to be equal with men, because she tried to claim that, oh, this is an attack on women's, sex as well. It's like, yeah, but who's doing that? Conflating hate with any sort of criticism is the ultimate sign of a weak position. That's from Candidens. Jutsu One.
Are these top comments?
Let me see. How do I sort them? It says sort by. Okay.
Top.
Yeah, top.
Yeah, sort by top. Yeah,
Top
okay,
comments.
great.
Yeah.
Good.
3 sentences in, and I knew this lady was dim. That's another one. Nobody is seriously debating women's right to vote. Also at 10:03, what is the top issue going into the election? Constantine, the immigration and economy. Ashley, it's abortion rights. This is the voice of someone who lives in a bubble and is delusional. But again, I said this, like, the Democrats are turning women into a voting bloc based on the abortion issue, whether those women are getting abortions or not, whether they are invested in it or not, because they're pulling on the woman card. They're pulling on the team woman. Are you on team woman? You have to vote this way. And because Ashley St. Clair herself said women are better at oppression, they do as they're told, they are doing that. They know that this will work on them. So while men are concerned with, like, I don't know, like bigger things like freaking wars and immigration and the economy and, like, printing money like crazy and crime and all these other, bigger issues, women are like, but possible maybe womb issue that I may never actually care about. Like, only some woman somewhere I don't even know might have to, like, make a terrible decision after her already terrible decision about her unborn child, and I have to take a side on that. Then we got Debunkernator, who says she is controlled opposition. Goose99 says she lost me when she said it's irrelevant that men and women have drastically different voting patterns. So again, that was her being dismissive, like, who cares? You can't change that. But women are voting against the interests of our country and for the interests of themselves. So it looks like all of this is pretty based, like, commentary. So this lady is right on target. She's just holding the gun backwards. Lol. When she talks about AI, it makes me cringe. Okay, so that doesn't matter. Ashley needs to walk a mile in a young man's shoes. She is belittling all of their concerns. So there you go. Next week on Triggernometry, solve homelessness by telling men or telling them to just buy houses. Just touch grass. Just talk to women. Just lower your expectations. Do these people really think that 1/3 of men under 30 have never talked to a woman before or have sky high expectations for a girlfriend? I guess you can't expect a pretty woman to ever understand the life of an average / unattractive man. Same, but the same difference. But at least those two should have pushed back a little.
Ooh, that's a bit of shade there.
That's true, though. That's true.
Yeah, no, but he's basically saying that they understand the life of an average or unattractive man.
Yes. Well, but like most of us are average. That's what
sure.
average means.
Yep.
So
we're
literally what it means, guys.
Mighty mid.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So I got a Super Chow, a big one.
Yay.
Talinar with the big old Super Chow. Okay.
That might be interesting.
Is this like a chaser thing?
Yeah, a little chaser. I'll send it to you via the Discordians.
Yeah. I'll read the Super Chow from Telemnar, who gives us $20 and says, encouraging thing I noted. The comments on the YouTube video you are reviewing are pretty negative regarding the quality of the interview. The host might not have done the most stellar job, but their audience is much more skeptical of this woman's knowledge and intelligence, rightfully so, in my opinion. Regarding the education system, feminists have had a massive amount of influence on curricula, teaching methods, hiring practices, and of course, the ability to fire male teachers on the basis of accusations. So this is an example of a very mediocre woman being ignorant and dodging responsibility. However, the sheer amount of things she is getting wrong means you have a lot of material to work with. I remember what roses grow in. Happy Friday.
Oh, thank you, Telemnar.
Thank you, Telemnar. That's cool. And then I got a super chat, but you want to respond to that first?
Just let me take a look. The education system. No, yes, I don't disagree with anything.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good. That's true. And look, the only thing I will say is that I gotta admit that I watch a lot of interviews and discussions and debates and conversations. And the one thing I will say is it is really frustrating sometimes that the discourse is this low level and that I'm not a part of it. And I was very happy to be able to talk to the guy I talked to yesterday, because I think it's time, it's time to stop giving a fuck about women's feelings and how they're like, oh, I don't like that he said that thing. It's like, yeah, the comfort that you're feeling around that is part of the problem, because we're not able to have these conversations. And we were you can look at old interviews and debates from the 1960s and the 1950s and look at how frank those discussions were. They were able to just talk about this stuff. And I mean, granted, there were almost no women on there, but maybe that's the point. I don't know. I'm just saying.
I just want to say that one of the biggest beneficiaries to people finally just saying, women, you can't care about your emotions.
Yeah,
is going to be women, because when this is pathological. This is the behavior of people who are possessed by a phobia, and your emotions are doing you no favors. They're leading you down to a very dark path. And I think women need to start realizing that a conversation about women's responsibility, if they want to be the primary voting bloc, then a conversation about their political responsibility has to be on the table. And they can't respond with offense or fear. They need to resolve those issues in themselves, because they represent psychological hangups that women primarily will suffer from, because they're the ones who live in their own skulls. This is again, you can't always be comfortable. If you want to pursue anything in your life, if you want to pursue any kind of excellence or external standard, you have to allow that you're going to be uncomfortable. Some of the best things in life come from being uncomfortable.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay.
All right. So I got a super chat, and then I'll play okay, good. I'll do the super chat first, and then you do the thank yous, and then we'll look at the video. So I got another Super Chow. I'll put that up first. Sorry. Dane gives us $5 and says, conscription is a violation of a basic human right, that being a full body violation, an attack on men's bodily autonomy. But it's not a surprise that this is acceptable. Just look at male genital mutilation. That's where it starts. Yes, it's true. And of course, again, the abortion debate being the only thing that the one motivating thing for women, and the fact that like going to war and using men's bodies in war does not like even come close to that for them is evidence, is proof of what we're talking about. The problem is that women can't see how their decisions affect the lives of men. So because they're too worried about like maybe they get pregnant and they may have to deal with that. So anyway, Xeranx gives us $5 and says they can never be voting for themselves when voting for more government. They're actually voting for the establishment who will make them wish for hardship. Yes, but they don't know that. They think they're just getting what they want. Okay, Allison, do your thank yous.
Okay, well, I have, just give me a second. I want to thank Mrs. Anna Vark for $5. She put through the support at feedthebadger.com/support. So thank you, Mrs. Anna Vark.
Should I play a thing for that?
Sure.
Thank you. Come again.
Okay, and then there is Fros. FRO is the first three. I'm not going to say anything more. Who gives us $10 for our fundraiser at feedthebadger.com/support. So thank you. Fros.
Excellent.
And then the rest were the 2 Super Chows. So I suppose we can. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I read them already, so I think that is it. So we can do the video now.
Yeah. Let's do the video.
Okay. All right. So let me just drag this over.
Of sacrificing for making sure things work.
All right. When someone asks, how safe do you feel when you're doing tower work? Ooh.
If you can't see what's happening,
there's a thing missing.
Yeah. Okay, so a man is going up to do the cell tower work, like fix the cell towers. And he's been asked how safe he feels on the cell tower, and he's showing all of the missing nuts and the loose bolts, or the missing bolts and the loose nuts on the actual tower. It is, when you watch it, it's freaking terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like whatever this man is paid, he's not paid enough. But this is
Damn
one
right.
of the part. This man represents a part of the system that's keeping it all together. Yeah. And again, like, men are the ones keeping this system together for the most part. I mean, and some women sort of like me who are more masculine, we are responsible for keeping the system together. And we have the least amount of voice in it. And that's not fair. And there needs to be a discussion about it. Okay. All right. So once again, if you enjoy this content, please consider supporting it at feedthebadger.com/support. And if you want to send us a message at any time after the show is over, you just want to tell us that you enjoyed the content, you thought it was great. We're not just shouting into the void in our attempts to elevate the discourse. You can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. You can also criticize us, because we'll take that too. Or you can do more esoteric stuff, confuse us. We'll be confused, and we'll also read your comment and on the next reasonable show. So feedthebadger.com/support to support our content, feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us a tip and a comment. All right, back to you, Brian.
All right. Well, before I wrap it up, I did get another Super Chow as well as a Rumble rant, or it was a Super Chat and a Rumble rant. So I'll do the Rumble rant first. NovaFan21 gave us $1 and says, didn't pre-watch, but I'm confident she's yesterday's Democrat voter. I also wouldn't put it past her to say, I know feminism gives men and boys no solutions, but shame on them for being frustrated. All right. Thank you for that. And yes, it's true. And then I got a Super Chat from, I got to put it on the screen here so that we can display it. Bourbon Decay, and Bourbon Decay gives us £5 and says, hi Badgers, what's Max doing now? I loved his video about Metal Gear. Is he still on your side, or is he doing something different now for the monies? He's talking about Max Darrett. Max Darrett is still cool. I don't think there's any bad blood. I just think that he got burnt out on all of the, because this stuff's hard, but he is doing content on YouTube, but mostly it's sort of like philosophical essays, And I think that's more up his alley and more of his interest. So, but yeah, Max is doing really well, actually. His channel's big. He's another person that got the Midas touch, I guess, or at least like, you know, I got to know him while he was still really small, and now he's pretty massive. So still doing good stuff on YouTube. Okay. So anyway, all of that out of the way, let me wrap this up. So if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we talked about on the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame, and we'll talk to you all in the next one.
Are machines, dude. Okay, they are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.